When I seen Mike with Tori on his lap, I turned my head because I didn't want to see it. I could hear her calling my name.
Can you imagine that people are that ill because they don't even understand what is a natural act and what is an unnatural act? They don't even realize how dead their mind and brain are. How one could find excuses for the crime they have committed and they are not having that guilty feeling. How many of you are a fan of crime stories? This is one of the meanest and the cruelest stories one could ever come across. No parents in the whole world would be prepared or expect that the outside world would be cruel to their children when they get the chance. And that's how the world is. This story is about an 8-year-old beautiful young child who was the sweet corn of her grandparents. April 8, 2009. Oliver Stevens Public School, Woodstock, Ontario. The final bell for the school rang. Kids started coming out and they were on their way to their home. Around 3:30 p.m. that day, Tori Stafford came out of the school, 2 minutes after everyone left. From the surveillance, everyone thought, like every other kid, she was on her way to her home. Unfortunately, she didn't reach home that day, even though her home was only a few blocks away. Tori's home. The same day at 6:04 p.m., Stafford's grandmother filed a missing complaint on Tori Stafford. While in search of her, they found that she had walked out with a woman, and you can see that she wasn't forcefully taken. Later in Down Fife Avenue, Woodstock, she was captured by a security camera. Tori Stafford is an 8-year-old girl living with her grandparents. An 8-year-old went missing for hours and nobody knows anything. Initially, the police suspected Tori's family, especially her mother, Tara McDonald, who is an unemployed drug addict. At first, everyone thought McDonald was the woman in the footage. April 25, 2009. This case was featured in the episode of America's Most Wanted. May 19, 2009. From there, the investigation went thorough, and more people started engaging in the case through social media. And that's how they learned it was Terry Lynn McClintock, in the footage aged 18 years, a convict of breaching probation order. And then they arrested McClintock. She was interrogated by Detective Sergeant Jim Smith. After 45 minutes of interrogation, she finally spilled how she lured Stafford into a secluded parking place with the promise of showing her a puppy.
I think it goes right back to what you've said a few times. You didn't want to see it, okay? But that doesn't change the fact that you saw it, okay? And that's what you need to be truthful about. And I know it's hard to talk about. I know it's even harder to talk about than the sex part of it, okay? But you saw it, okay? You know you saw it. And we need to talk about that.
When I seen Mike with Tori on his lap, I turned my head because I didn't want to see it. I could hear her calling my name.
She was forced into the back seat of a car, and the car immediately drove away. And in the driver's seat, we have a 28-year-old Michael Rafferty. Who is Michael Rafferty? How did he kidnap the child? What did he do to her? May 20th, 2009. The police charged Michael Thomas Christopher Stephen Rafferty, age 28, with first-degree murder, and Terry Lynn McClintock, 18, with being an accessory to murder, in addition to lesser charges, in the abduction and suspected murder of Stafford. During the interrogation of McClintock, it was also found that Rafferty sexually assaulted the child and murdered the child by 4 strikes on her head with a claw hammer.
31-year-old Michael Rafferty has been found guilty of murdering, kidnapping, and sexually assaulting 8-year-old Tori Stafford.
From the information in an unclear sketch made by McClintock, the place of crime, from there the police got the remains of the child. She was found with lacerations to her liver and 16 broken ribs. It was noted that the cause of death is due to the repeated blows on her head. At 7:55 p.m., Rafferty was arrested. He was dealt with proper documentation by Sergeant Chris Loam. Ontario Provincial Police have a highly trained behavioral science unit. Indeed, is a great asset. They lured him in, the same way he made McClintock to get the child, to cooperate and take things into consideration. The video of interrogation. If you watch the video, you could clearly see how well he acts all empathetic, powerless, and vulnerable. Let's say the same thing he would have enjoyed when he destroyed the 8-year-old. During the entire interrogation session, you can see how well the officer breaks his thoughts and himself so that he wouldn't get a chance to think for a prospective lie. The way the whole interrogation session kills his body language makes him doubt himself, blaming and pulling him into the web. Finally, when he breaks, he starts inquiring about the details given by McClintock. The officer gave him in a nutshell. The officer used the famous Mutt and Jeff technique. The Mutt and Jeff technique, even though it was very perfectly executed, was unsuccessful and the officers couldn't get anything important out of his mouth. They failed in the first session. After the brief break, the officers came back with McClintock. He wasn't surprised by her visit. The officers started with interrogation again. After that, the officer started with the psychological approach, and he literally wanted this bloody hell of a child rapist to accept what he did. Until this time, the media coverage for this case didn't go down. The case was still in talks, and the media made sure that the case shouldn't be forgotten. And in each hour of the case, they made sure that Tori gets her peace and no other child should go through the same. May 28, 2009. McClintock got her charges held against her altered to first-degree murder charge and unlawful confinement charge. You'd be thinking about what happened to Rafferty, right? It was later announced that the accused would be tried separately. It was announced that Rafferty was found guilty of murdering, kidnapping, and sexually assaulting 8-year-old Tori Stafford after nearly 10 weeks of trial in London. When the verdict was read out in the courtroom, a silent yet loud sigh was released by the whole in the courtroom. July 29, 2009. The police confirmed that the remains found near Mount Forest was Stafford's. Her body was naked from the waist down, and she was wearing only Hannah Montana t-shirt with a pair of butterfly earrings that she had borrowed from her mother. Her lower half was significantly decomposed. Her autopsy confirmed all the findings of the police. March 5, 2012. The trail started. For the defendant's side, when the lawyer came out, the media questioned him with his reason for taking this case. For the same, he replied, "Someone has to take it." May 11, 2012. At 9:18 p.m., the jury concluded that Rafferty was guilty on all charges. After 4 days, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with no chance of parole for 25 years. For the same verdict, Rafferty appealed many times and his appeal was dismissed the very same day they were presented, and that's how he ended up in prison. October 2018. McClintock was transferred to the Okemo-Ochi Healing Lodge in Saskatchewan, run by the Correctional Service of Canada. The lodge was a minimum medium security prison with 24 hours a day being monitored under video cameras. Where is Rafferty in prison? He was admitted into a high security prison under 24-hour surveillance. Later, when speculation regarding him being transferred to another prison rose up, to this, the Minister of Goodale replied, "The number one priority of the correctional system is public safety." As Minister Goodale undertook in the House to confirm, Michael Rafferty is incarcerated in the La Macasa Institution, a secure correctional facility that specializes in dealing with sex offenders. La Macasa's buildings are fully surrounded by a guarded double fence that is 3.6 meters high, equipped with advanced security systems, both physical and electronic. Both of them will be imprisoned for the brutal act they have done, and like already discussed, Rafferty won't be receiving any parole for 25 years. However, McClintock might be eligible after imprisoned for 15 years, and she pled guilty from the very beginning, prior to the elimination of what is known as the faint hope clause. Who would do such a thing to a child? It's not about the time and place. Improper or let's say unnatural things happen in society faster than lightning. And guess what? Of all the cases, only a few were awarded with proper punishment. Let's hope at least in the future, let's not face the same story or witness something or anything similar. Hope you liked the video. Put down suggestions in the comments below. And for updates, do subscribe to the channel.